Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I'm ready to do my first impressions on this little sucker. This is the Cutlery Shoppe exclusive glow-in-the-dark Dragonfly 2. It's in a VG10 blade, glow-in-the-dark FRN handle scales. It is a backlock, and it's got a little wire clip on it. So, pretty cool little setup, all things considered. If you didn't watch my unboxing, quick little explanation of how I came to own this knife. I use the term own loosely because it won't ultimately be mine. Jeff over at Cutlery Shoppe has become a bit of a friend. He's a really cool dude, and he reached out to me, asked if I had reviewed Dragonfly 2 in general. I said no. He asked if I'd be interested in reviewing their exclusive, and I said sure, but I'm going to be honest, I'm not a big backlocks kind of guy, and anyways, so with that in mind, he said, I'm going to send you one, and then he said, when you're done reviewing it, just give it to your daughter or your wife so they have a knife, which I think is really, really cool of him. So, Cutlery Shoppe is going to be linked down below. They're an awesome retailer, really good people over there, and Jeff is a great dude. He's the owner, so no problem telling anybody to support them because I know the people over there, and they're nice. So, this is my second ever Japanese Spyderco. I have the Salt 2 Wharncliffe. That really I just kind of use as like a fishing knife at this point. Not that I even fish all that often, but it's like kind of a designated tackle box knife for me at this point. It's basically a Delica, but waterproofed. And that knife is okay. I don't love it, don't hate it. It's just kind of a tool to me. I see it with a specific purpose, and for that purpose, it works. But it's not a knife that like makes it in my pocket as a primary or a secondary. I don't love carrying it, partially because I don't love backlocks, and it's a backlock. I also don't usually love FRN handle scales. They're plastic. They feel plasticky. Apparently there's a helicopter. Alright, sorry, the helicopter is gone now. Like I was saying, FRN just feels cheap and plasticky to me, and it makes sense at a certain price point because it's a material that works, but it's not a material that I prefer. So I think what's kind of cool here is if you're gonna do FRN, like, why not do it in a way that you can't really do other materials very easily? So this being a glow-in-the-dark version, these handle scales literally glow in the dark. And it's light out here, so I can't show you, but I'll loop in some B-roll of how this looks glowing in the dark, if I can get it shot well. And I don't think you could make glow-in-the-dark G10. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I've seen it. There's no like glow-in-the-dark micarta. I've seen it like woven into carbon fiber, but then that gets more expensive. And so I think it's kind of nice to like do it on this. It makes sense to me to do like kind of a fun material or a fun version of a material that's otherwise to me a little bit blah. The way it looks when it's not glowing, when it's just out, isn't really my vibe personally, but it doesn't look bad. It just looks kind of toyish, which is funny because this is going to be my daughter's first real knife, and her current only knife is a wooden Spyderco Dragonfly that I got her the kit of, and we built together, and she painted it pink and blue, and it's this whole thing, and she's really proud of it. And so it's fun that this is going to be her knife, because to me this kind of seems childlike, this like glow-in-the-dark material. And I talked about it in my unboxing. I had these glow-in-the-dark stars in my room growing up that looked exactly like this material, and that's probably part of why I think it's childish, but anyways. So let's talk about this knife and where I'm coming at it first impressions wise. I've carried it for a day. I carried it as a secondary in my back left pocket, and I will be carrying it a lot more in preparation for the full review. But my first impressions so far are, I'm pretty impressed with it. So in typical Spyderco fashion, they've done a really good job at putting a forward finger choil on here and a thumb ramp. So with the forward finger choil, that thumb ramp, and then the rest of the ergos, I'm able to get 4 fingers on this tiny little sucker, and I feel really locked in with it. It reminds me a lot of the Lil Native in the sense that it's a tiny knife that I'm getting a full purchase on. I don't have a ton of cutting edge, but I've got enough, and This blade stock is a lot thinner than the Lil Native, and so it's actually thinner behind the edge, and I found it's a better slicer than the Lil Native is. It definitely feels less chunky and robust, and so in some ways that's a positive, in some ways that's a negative, but I'm liking that ergonomically I get a full purchase on it, and it feels secure in my hand. I'm able to use this for tasks that other knives with this much blade length I couldn't, like the Pochi. Let me see, I actually have it right here. Let me see cutting edge to cutting edge, what we're looking at here. So the Pochi has less cutting edge, sure, but the Pochi, I have found, is really difficult to actually use for stuff because I just don't get a good purchase on it. This, I do. I'm able to use it. Not like for crazy stuff, but that's why I carry it as a secondary. So for opening boxes, opening up mail, processing some cardboard for the dumpster even, it totally works, and it's done great. I've opened a couple of packages with it, and I've processed those boxes for the dumpster, and it did great for all of it. The blade steel in this guy is VG10. So far I don't have any deformation in the edge. Still as sharp as it was out of the box after that little bit of work that I did. Now VG10 isn't a super steel. It's not going to be incredible. This is a steel that, if used a lot, I will need to sharpen with somewhat of regularity, with some level of regularity. But after I'm done reviewing this, it's going to be my daughter's knife, and she's not old enough for it to be something that she'll actually carry yet. She's 5, so in a few years when she's ready, then sure, she can put it in her pocket if she wants to, if we're going on hikes or something. But this is just going to kind of be her knife to let her have a knife for a while. And so VG10 for that is a great steel. And the experiences I've had with VG10 in the past, I've had a couple of knives in it. The most notable one would be the Kaiser Mini Sheepdog. I had one of those for a while as I was kind of getting into the hobby of knife collecting. Carried it a lot as a secondary, used it a lot, and VG10 is decent. It's definitely not top tier these days, not even close, but it's a good usable steel. And so on a knife this tiny, that's kind of just a secondary, I feel like it's totally acceptable. And I think these retailed right around 80 bucks. Since he sent it to me, I'm not positive. I feel bad about that. I probably should have looked up how much they cost, but I feel like it's within line for Spyderco pricing in terms of it being a cool, little bit special handle material. VG10 is a totally doable blade steel, and I think from what I've heard as well, in Seiki City, Japan, where they make these, Spyderco does a pretty good job with their VG10 specifically, so it works for me. In terms of carry, I think that's going to be the strong suit of this knife. It's really thin this way. It's not very big this way. Super short this way. It's got a wire, loop over, deep carry pocket clip. Doesn't go all the way to the butt end of the knife. I would love it if it did, but a lot of knives don't. It weighs like nothing. This thing is so easy to carry. When I had it back left pocket, even like sitting on it in the car, just like moving throughout the house all day, sitting at my desk, sitting on the couch, like up and down, going around, I could not tell this knife was in my pocket. It was there, didn't fall out, still have it, but it just really did kind of disappear, and so I like that about it. This would also be a super easy knife to just toss in a pack and forget that it's there until you need it. It just weighs nothing. It's a small footprint, and so the fact that it's that small, that light, carries that well, and I get a full 4-finger grip on it, is pretty impressive to me. So, yeah, my first impressions of this knife are pretty good. I'm liking it so far. I don't love that it's a backlock. I would love it if I could have one of these in G10 with a compression lock that I could fidget with a little better, but I can manipulate it one-handed just fine. It's not like it doesn't work, but kind of like my Salt, having a backlock on it makes it feel more like a tool to me. Like something I pull out specifically to cut things, and then I put away into a bag or into my back pocket, and if I want to fidget with something, I better have another knife on me, because it's just not fun to fidget with. But it works, and it's a strong lock type, and I see the merits of it. The only backlock I've ever owned that I really loved was the Native 5 fluted carbon fiber with S90V, and I didn't love that knife because it was a backlock. In fact, that was the one thing I would change about it. Everything else about it was virtually perfect. Just a great knife otherwise. But I just don't like backlocks. That's my preference. So if you do like backlocks, and you haven't tried a Dragonfly, I think it's a cool little offering. because it's a nice, thin, slicey little blade. It's a tiny, tiny footprint that gives you a full 4-finger grip, and so far I'm vibing with it. So I will be carrying it more. I'm going to try it 5th pocket at least once or twice. I'm going to do it back pocket another 1 or 2 times. I'll throw it in my fanny pack a couple of times, see how that goes. And after I've done all of that, done a little more cutting with it, then I'll be doing a full review. But in the meantime, that'll be my first impressions of the Spyderco Dragonfly 2 GITD. This is the Cutlery Shoppe exclusive. And again, Cutlery Shoppe will be linked down below. They are awesome. So give them a look if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys on the next one.